Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh and good morning. Welcome to the session and talk on Shariah audit. And first of all, I would like to welcome respected Professor Dr. Abdul Rahim, who was previously from IIU. Now, I think starting 1st April, he's now a Vice Chancellor of Kuala Lumpur Metropolitan University College. And if you pass through Jalan Raja Laut, I think you've seen a very big building, Tun Ismail Ali, that will be the new home of the KLMU. Okay, and also good morning to all of you. Welcome to everyone, and thank you for your presence in this session. Actually, you may wonder when we actually send out our invitation, people ask why we giving this a free session. Okay, this session is actually part of initiative by academics from University Malaya to further explore, how the Shariah audit can be further enhanced. And we're very grateful to University Malaya, which actually gave us a grant of RM 50,000 for us to handle the seminars, as well as to after this there will be the second part of the session where we need your assistance to fill up, or to answer certain questions. Because this is, I think it is a smart partnership between academics as well as practitioners. As academics, we have to get the data from practitioners, then we need to analyze before we can actually put on our recommendation. So without practitioners, we are not able to get the actual data and to see how things work in the organization, in the actual world. So that's why there has to be a smart partnership. Then after the collection of the data, we will collate and analyze, and perhaps, whatever outcome, we'll perhaps discuss back with you, perhaps in a focus group discussion. Then we hope to feed this information to the authority, for example, maybe Bank Negara. And Dr. Rahim also is actually the chair that head the promulgation of the Shariah audit guidelines. I think the work has been carried out for almost 2 years, but this research is actually trying to feed the information to the to Bank Negara as well. So this is part of what we do as academics. So on top of that, what is expected out of us is that we, as UM is very much into pursuing the ranking. So what is expected out of us? We have to publish one paper that can go into the top tier ranking. That is our work that we have to really do to get into there. But we find it challenging though, because Shariah audit is actually, the knowledge is owned by our people in Malaysia. When we first send our papers to, I first sent to Netherlands, and I think they're not aware of what this all about. So they do not want to accept the paper because they think this is not within their knowledge structure. Then I sent another proposal to US, which is actually the sponsored by ACCA. So the first grant that we got is from US, ACCA, and in Association of Academic Research, IAAER. They gave us about 25,000. That is where we embark on the survey. So then we feel that we need more data, then we actually applied to UM for another grant, and this grant is called High Impact Research, and it is meant for research that will give an impact to the society as well as to the knowledge creation. So this is what is if you can see the symbol HIR. So there will be two parts of the session. First, we're going to have Prof. Dr. Rahim to give his explanation on Shariah audit, as well as on the topic of how the role of Shariah audit in enhancing accountability and integrity in Islamic financial institution. And the second session, we will have about a questionnaire for you to fill up. Then we will proceed with lunch. So we're going to have more sessions after this, which will be on the 30th and on 8th and 7th of May. Okay, so before I invite the speaker, allow me to introduce Prof. Dr. Rahim, Prof. Dr. Abdul Rahim is currently a Vice Chancellor of KLMU. Prior to this, he was a professor at the Kuliah of Economics and Management Science International Islamic University. He is currently a member of the Shariah Committee of IIUM Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance, and he's also a Shariah Committee of HSBC AMANAH Malaysia. And Prof. Dr. Abdul Rahim obtained his bachelor degree in finance and accounting from University of East London, and he obtained his master degree in accounting and management science and PhD in accounting for Islamic institution from the University of Southampton, UK. He's very active in teaching, research, consultancy, and he is a renowned speaker in the topic of Sharia audit and Islamic accounting. Without further ado, may I cordially invite Dr. Rahim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all of you. Welcome to the session. I was given the title, The Role of Sharia Audit in Enhancing Integrity and Accountability of Islamic Financial Institutions. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nurmazilah. Very good introduction. Very short, brief, very nice introduction. I'm not sure whether I'm really a renowned speaker on Sharia audit, but I remember one thing about Sharia audit. I think about 11 years ago, in 2002, we were at IIUM doing some research on Islamic finance. But my background was actually as an internal auditor, like many of you used to be before I joined IIUM. But over the years, moving into academics, did my PhD, doing many research in accounting and other areas, as well as in particular Islamic finance. Over the sudden, there was at that time an emerging issue in the Islamic financial industry. The issue was actually the integrity of Islamic financial institutions. We know that in 1983, Malaysia started to offer Islamic financial services through Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad. Then we have Takaful Malaysia. Prior to that, we have Tabung Haji, but Tabung Haji is not a bank. It's not a true, full-fledged Islamic financial institution. But over the years, after 1983, 20 years later, we have to sit down and look at the development of Islamic financial institution 20 years after Bank Islam Malaysia. So I think at that time we organized a seminar, 20 years of Islamic banks in Malaysia, that was held somewhere in KL. And we invited a number of speakers, including one of the prominent speaker or prominent researcher and scholar, Professor Khurshid Ahmad. It just happened that during that year, IIUM awarded him honorary doctorate on Islamic economics to Professor Khurshid Ahmad. Those who follow the development of literature on Islamic economics and Islamic finance, especially at the beginning in 1960s, 70s onwards, the name of Professor Khurshid Ahmad was actually very crucial. Crucial in many sense because he has written a number of works at the beginning to explain the needs for Islamic banks. But that was in 1960s. At that time, we didn't have the full-fledged Islamic financial institution as yet in 1960s. So he gave a very nice lecture to us. But what triggers me was at that time, the issue raised was the integrity of Islamic financial institution. The role that we need to reshape and relook at Islamic financial institution that we have established for a number of years, at that time 20 years after 1983. Then a person like me, one area that concerned me was actually, how do we enhance integrity? How do we enhance integrity? Yes, integrity is important. You look at the stakeholders now, the stakeholders, if you take customers, if you take depositors, they are more concerned than before. they realized that Islamic financial institution cannot sustain its growth until and unless the institution really adopt the Islamic principles in all the activities and operations. If that is the case, if the stakeholders started to become more concerned, more knowledgeable, the scrutiny on the activities of Islamic financial institution is very important and very demanding. And as a person coming from internal audit background, one thing that triggers me that we don't have so-called assurance process in place. If you can go back 10 years ago, if someone mentioned to you Shariah audit, not now. Now at least people are more aware because we have Shariah governance framework. Imagine 10 years ago, if we were talking about Shariah audit, there are many people will look at you as if, who is this guy? Is he another fundamentalist trained from somewhere who want to push for a Shariah agenda in our country? That could be one remark. Another remark could be, you want to put prefix on many things. Audit also you want to put Shariah. Is it necessity? Is it necessary? Is it required? And then I came up with an idea for a research grant. Part of my, as normal, we are lecturers at the university. I proposed a research project to Bank Negara Malaysia. It was in 2004, 2005. But at that time, it was still new. Even Bank Negara Malaysia looked at me also. What is Shariah audit? Then I have to explain to them. And I remember those who attended the so-called, they have an interview session before they approve the grants. So they asked me a lot of questions which I have to answer. Then I realized one thing. At that time, 10 years ago, even in Bank Negara or at Bank Negara Malaysia, the need for Shariah audit was not there 10 years ago. That's number one. Why it was not there at that time? Because people thought that, well, we have Shariah committee, we have Shariah department, we have Shariah compliance process. All products must be approved by the Bank Negara Malaysia Shariah committee. We also have internal audit in place. We have external audit coming in. Is that not enough? Is that not sufficient? Or is it Shariah audit need to be very different? Or is it should be part of the present audit framework that you already have in your institution? If we need Shariah audit, then the question will be, how is it going to be operationalized? Who should do it? How to do it? Who should regulate it? Then the next question will be, why not Bank Negara doing it? Why should the bank be burdened to conduct Shariah audit in addition to the normal audit that they have been doing for so many years? So all these questions crop up 10 years ago, but by now many of the issues has been thrashed out. And in Shariah Governance Framework 2011, okay, that all Islamic financial institutions have to adopt. It is clear there the need of Shariah audit. What is Shariah audit? But in Shariah Governance Framework, it is not that sufficient to assist you to conduct Shariah audit. Do you agree? My first statement and my first question could be, do you agree that the Shariah Governance Framework make provision on Shariah audits? Yes. It provides some guidance in terms of what is Shariah audit, what is it expected to do, but do you think it's sufficient? You answer yourself, maybe later on you need to reflect on this question. So I will proceed with a very simple statement. I will not read through my slide. That Sharia is the cornerstone of Islamic financial institutions. The reason why Islamic financial institution exists is because of Sharia. Correct? Because of prohibition of riba, because prohibition of gharar. If the stakeholders are aware that the products in their portfolio or even the activities and operations are not Sharia compliant or are not fully Sharia compliant or suspected to be not really Sharia compliant, whatever you want to argue, this would, my argument is, seriously undermine the integrity of and confidence in the Islamic financial industry. We have this problem for the past so many years. Moving forward, I think one of the areas that we can enhance the confidence of the stakeholders and users are basically through Sharia audits. Okay. Now, I will give you some more arguments later. But we know Sharia governance framework in 2011. It provides guidelines for all Islamic financial institutions to structure, develop, and practice Sharia compliance activities. It is mentioned quite clearly that the board of directors is the body responsible to provide overall oversight of Sharia governance structure and Sharia compliance. Take note of this statement. If you read carefully the Sharia governance framework, the one who is, or the first body that is responsible on Sharia matters, which provide the overall oversight, is actually the board of directors. If you read it carefully, then you will realize that the role of the board of directors now being enhanced by virtue of this framework. Number two, the framework make it very clear that the management is responsible to ensure the executions of business and operation must be in accordance with the Sharia principle and provide necessary support to the Sharia committee. The next organ of governance that will ensure proper Sharia compliance, of course, is the management. And the Sharia committee, if you read it carefully, is to provide oversight and accountability on Sharia-related matters. In the past, whenever there is non-Sharia compliance, the blame has always been, of course, part of the management is actually the Sharia committee. But we must understand the limitation that the Sharia committee of each Islamic financial institution has. We have very limited function. We have to approve the products, that's number one. We have to really scrutinize the product proposal. Some policies of the bank need to be streamlined on Sharia, particularly on many matters such as policy on penalty, policy on gharama, on ta'wid, if you are familiar, and other policies including marketing. We have to go through sometime marketing leaflets, newspapers, adverts, and many others, because we want to ensure the fully compliance of the Islamic financial institution, not only in products, but also in other activities. But the question here is, Sharia committee is just a body to assist the board of directors and of course the management. Okay, it is unfair if the blame is put on the Sharia committee. It's unfair. We are here to help, to assist. Okay, not to take responsibility. The responsibility is part of the management and of course the board of directors. Okay, right. Now we know these three organs of governance. It is very clear in the Sharia governance framework, the board of directors, the management, and the Sharia committee. Okay, the three should work together. Okay, and we also know in the Sharia governance framework there are four main Sharia compliance functions. Number one, Sharia risk management control function. Number two, Sharia review function. Number three, Sharia research function. And number 4, Shariah audit function. Okay, so it is just like 4 components of one big jigsaw puzzle. Shariah audit is one component out of the 4. And it was defined clearly in the Shariah governance framework to provide independent assessment and objective assurance. The role of compliance in nature should be under Shariah review function. And Shariah review function is normally performed by the Shariah department or Shariah unit of the Islamic bank, Islamic financial institution. The assurance must be done by who? Some banks, of course, internal audit. Some they hire an external party to come to assist if they don't have the capacity. Some banks is part of the group internal audit. Some banks they have dedicated Shariah auditors, part of the internal audit. Bank Islam have their own internal audit, which is by right doing Shariah audit as well, and they are not supposed to do other things besides internal audit and Shariah audit, isn't it? Now, the issue here is, the point that I would like to highlight also is, the Shariah audit is designed to value add and improve IFI's Shariah compliance. Gone the time when we claimed we have Shariah compliance process in place. But when we ask them, do we have assurance process? Do we have Shariah assurance? Then people will look at you, why should we? Why should we have? My argument is simple. On financial matters, you have accounting division, the finance division. You have external auditors who provide assurance. At the same time, you have internal auditors who cover the area of financial audit as well. So there are three line of defense, isn't it? You call it what? Line of defense. 3 layers or 3 lines of defense. But Islamic financial institution in the past has only 1 line of defense. External auditor never exists or never functioned to audit Shariah. Internal auditor never functioned to audit Shariah as well. I'm talking 10 years ago. And we have only 1 line of defense on Shariah matters. On financial operational matters, we have 3 lines of defense at least. And why, in the case of Shariah, we have only 1 line of defense? The point was very clear that we don't understand the fact that we need assurance. Compliance is not sufficient because we know, if you are trained in auditing, you know that 1 line of defense is insufficient. That one you need 3 hours lecture could be why 1 line of defense is not sufficient. But the point here is that assurance process should come into the picture to enhance the integrity of what you claim. Or what we claimed. Sorry. Now, I just want to run through with you my critical view of the Shariah governance framework. Shariah governance framework has given us some guidelines, has given us some suggestions to move forward, but the framework itself lacks operational guidance. Okay? Whether you agree with me or not, you go back and try to reflect on what I said. I hope you are very familiar with Shariah governance framework. If you are coming from Islamic financial institution, if you do not know Shariah governance framework, by now you are in trouble. Your bank negara will come and audit you soon. Or some of you have been audited on how good you are or how robust you are in terms of implementing Shariah governance. I'm sure some banks have already been visited by Bank Negara Malaysia after 2011. My question, they are still debatable even in Bank Negara, Even people in Bank Negara are still not sure of this question. Is the board, remember I did mention earlier, that the main organ that is accountable on Sharia-related matter is the board. But I put a question here. Is the present board of directors of Islamic banks ready, meaning ready means capable, able to function, as an oversight body of Sharia governance? This is a very academic question and very hypothetical. You can do an academic research on it. But my suspects, and my observations for the last few years, as a lecturer, I normally give grade. So it is not, definitely not an A yet. I do not want to give you grade because different boards have different abilities and capacities to undertake Sharia oversight. The issue remains is that should one of the board member be appointed among the Sharia qualified person to assist the board to function properly. If we say that the board has the oversight role on Sharia matters, okay, if we argue that the board has oversight role on financial matters, normally we assess the ability of the board to understand financial matters. And normally one of the requirements would be someone, at least one, possibly more, should have good qualification and exposure and experience as an accountant. Simple, isn't it? Coming to Sharia matters, where are that person? If you notice now, you take CIMB Islamic, those whoever from CIMB, they have appointed earlier Professor Hashim Kamali to sit in the board. Very good. I observe who did first. And some Islamic bank, from the Islamic bank that I'm coming from, HSBC AMANAH, we make sure that after 2011, chairman of the Sharia committee must be invited. Though we are not a full-fledged member of the board, by invitation, we must be there. And not only that, the issue later arises is, what would be the function of the Sharia person in the board? Okay? And the present board of directors, many of the Islamic financial institution board of directors, by now, they have incorporated a Sharia person to be in the board. I remember 10 years ago telling Bank Negara, they said, is it possible for Sharia people, Sharia person, qualified person to sit in the board? Can they function? I said, by invitation would be good enough. So if you notice the Sharia governance framework, there is a statement that it is recommended or it is encouraged for the board to appoint one person in the board as a member of the board of directors, if you read carefully, among a Sharia scholar to sit in the board. Reason is very clear. If you have oversight role on Sharia matters, you must know Sharia. If you have oversight role on financial matters, you must know financial matters and accounting. Now, the next issue will be audit committee. Similarly, if audit committee, which is now many banks, require the Sharia audit report or audit report related to Sharia been presented and tabled in the audit committee. The next question arises, will the audit committee can audit committee execute their function properly without the proper understanding of Sharia? Again, what we did in HSBC AMANAH, as an example, I sit in the audit committee. As a member of the Sharia committee, we make an effort to convince the board, look, if we conduct Sharia audit. Sharia audit findings will be tabled in the audit committee. You need to make sure that one person understands Sharia to sit in the audit committee to give advice. Our function is to give advice on Sharia-related matters raised, discussed, debated in the audit committee. So I sit in the audit committee. Another member of Sharia committee sit in the risk management committee. So we have 5 members. All of us are functional. We are not only attending meetings, Sharia committee meeting once a month, but we sit in various committees. Reason is, gone the time when we talk about Sharia compliance, the role of Sharia committee is just to approve products. Now is the time whereby we have to ensure in all operation and activities of the bank, in various governance committees and so on and so forth, there must be efforts to provide assurance on Sharia matters.